Hi, Linda. We'll wait a few minutes, everybody.
Hey, Jim. How are you? It's Linda.
Good, how are you?
Good, thanks.
I saw the article that was written about you guys.
Isn't that amazing?
It's so fantastic.
Yeah, it was great. I'm very excited.
If Catherine's on, I think she could post that if she wants.
Okay. I don't see her yet, but does my picture look familiar?
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Except you didn't shave off the cheeks and the chins that I asked you to shave off, but that's.
Oops, let me get Tracy. She's calling, so maybe. Hi, Tracy. Oh, okay. I'll send it right now. Okay, bye. I just sent Tracy the link. Let's see. Let me call her and see if she. Hi, did it work? Yeah. Okay, perfect. Okay. Tracy? Oh, there you are. Hi, Claire. We'll wait a few minutes, just a couple of minutes. Like the first 5 minutes, it kind of goes up. If anybody's joined us in the past, I apologize for the first week that it happened, the Zoom bombing, but I think it all went well last week, and I've added more security than I can imagine. One thing that a couple people or somebody at our office told us is to never attach the password, even though it may not be your personal password, but don't attach the password, but attach it as a piece of artwork. So that's where you saw that as a piece of artwork. And it seems to been pretty well. They can't scan the internet and see it. So it comes in as a piece of artwork. There's always little tidbits that everybody adds to the security of Zooming. So hopefully that is one extra security tidbit. Hi, Claire. I guess we could start. Thanks everybody for joining we call it the Brand Together get together every Wednesday at 3. It's a great way for the school community to kind of come together. We try to have a topic every week. And last week we had Bishop Girton's high school talk about e-learning and stuff. And I don't know if Catherine's on, I know Linda's on. They just had a phenomenal article written about what they're doing. And I hope that Catherine can share the link to anybody with everybody, but it was a really an amazing article. We all knew that they were doing a phenomenal job, but if anybody has any questions about e-learning and, you know, a couple tricks that people are doing and why people are doing it so well, not to give you guys more work, Linda, but to reach out to them and ask them what they're doing. That's really knocking it out of the park. But today we're going to talk about fundraising, and Tracey Palmer from Palmer Communications. We work with her on a lot of projects, and she really, she's a phenomenal writer. I'll let her talk to you about what she does. My name's Jim Healy from Peapod Design, and we work with schools on everything from market research to print materials to websites, photography to virtual tours. But I'm gonna kind of pass it over to Tracey. This is really a very collaborative and ask a lot of questions. We're all in this kind of together, and I have to tell you, in the past 3 weeks, I have witnessed like the school community, the independent school community, come together better than I've ever seen. I mean, I've seen competitors out there that are just really working together to make sure that they're all kind of succeeding with this. I also want to say that I think the independent schools are in a position right now of marketing themselves as a phenomenal product for school for schooling. I mean, a lot of public schools have closed, and these, you know, independent schools have been really showing how well they come together. So keep up the good work. It's amazing. So I'll let Tracey start talking a little bit about fundraising. So.
Hi, everybody. Thanks, Jim. Thanks for inviting me and
Thanks.
letting me into your homes. So a little bit about me. I have worked in higher education communications for 15 years in colleges and universities. I've had my own company for 20-something years, specializing in schools, colleges, and nonprofits and research institutes, clients all over the country. So I get to see sort of what everybody's doing out there and then share that with the people that I do workshops with. So and I do a lot of teaching for CASE. If you're familiar with CASE, I do development writing and persuasive writing workshops with them every year. So I get to see a lot of what's out there, and I try to share that with people as much as possible. Important thing to know, I am not a fundraiser. So some of you might be. You probably know way more than I do about fundraising. But I write for fundraisers, and I do a lot of development communications. So what I'm going to share with you today are just some ideas on how to communicate with your donors during this time, because it's a crazy time, right? And so you can find more about me at traceypalmer.com if you want. It's TRACEYPALMER. That's my website. And if you have any questions after this that you don't want to, you know, send out to everybody, you feel free to reach out to me in any way. So happy to help. So let's just quickly talk about where we are and what we can do about fundraising. So one thing that we all know is sort of the virus is the only thing on people's minds right now, right? That's all we talk about. Even when you call your parents or your friends, it's like it's on everybody's mind. So donors are no different, right? So you have to remember that this is top of their mind. That said, it doesn't mean that your messages have to be all sort of doom and gloom and, you know, scary. You don't really know exactly what your donors are thinking. Some are in quarantine, some aren't. Some are scared, some aren't. Some are going to go about their lives like normal. So you don't really know what everyone's situation is. Some people maybe have illness in their family and maybe even death. So I think we just have to really be respectful of where everybody is. Even we may not know exactly. So we really need to keep that in your mind when you're communicating. And so you need to ask yourself too, during this crisis, is your fundraising need really an emergency? Or maybe you just really want to reach out to your donor community and find out how they are. If you don't feel comfortable, going out with the hard sell like you have in the past, maybe this is a time to just step back and reach out to people, see how they are. So I'll give you a couple of tips that I'm working with my clients. And that said, my clients are all different. They all have different audiences. Not everything I say will be applicable to your audience necessarily. You know your donors better than anybody. So this is really just about sort of general communications during a crisis with donors. So number one, don't pretend things are normal. We just said that. Things are not business as usual. The copy that you probably wrote 2 months ago that you were planning to send out at the end of April, that's probably not going to work, right? It's just going to it won't sound authentic. It doesn't take into account what's going on. So, maybe you were intending to raise money for a special project or a capital project. Right now, I think most of my clients are seeing it as an opportunity to raise money for general operating expenses. Usually that's not an exciting sell, but without that, some of these places, they won't be able to keep their doors open, right? And some of these colleges, the smaller privates, my daughter is at a small private right now, college, they're hemorrhaging money right now. They're probably, a lot of them are going to lose students in the fall. Students who might just decide to stay with online learning, students who may just not want to be away from home, students who their parents may not want them away from home, they may want to transfer there. Who knows what's going to happen in the fall, right? Scary. But I think it is a good time to think about how you can talk about generating funds for general operating expenses. Just sort of, this is a good time to do that. So maybe stay away from the special, initiative. Maybe that doesn't seem as relevant right now. That's just a tip. Number two, I really encourage you to just be honest with people. Believe it or not, your donors are probably just as worried about you as you are, right? They care enough to give money to your school or your institution. So they do have some sense of what you're going through. So tell them what steps you're taking, what events you're canceling, what mailings you're postponing, what activities you're moving to remote platforms. Just give them the facts, right? And then tell your story about how you're coping. How is the crisis affecting the people who rely on you, your students, your faculty, your employees, your community, your stakeholders? Be honest, this is hitting us really hard, but with your help, we will survive, right? So your story can be really compelling at this moment. So take advantage of finding out what you can highlight. What efforts are your alumni making to help during this crisis? If you're a medical school, maybe you have nursing students who are volunteering, or maybe you have, the med students who are giving their licenses early so they can go practice. Or maybe you have some engineering or design students who are, sewing masks or fabricating plastic shields, or so look for those stories that you can see how your school or your college is contributing, right? Number three, show more love. I think we all need that right now. So do whatever you can to increase your engagement with your donors and show them some love, because they're scared too. You might want to consider, with really higher end level contributors, do a wellness check-in with them by phone or email. Say, hey, you know what? We're thinking about you. How's it going? Is there anything we can do? We're here. we really, really appreciate everything you've done for us, in the past, and this is really challenging time, and we're really glad we have you, as part of our community. So I think it's a time for all of us, there's a lot of these sort of Zoom cocktail hours going on and people getting in touch in the ways they haven't in years. Old high school friends and old colleagues have gotten in touch with me, people I haven't talked to in a long time. And I just feel like everybody sort of is feeling like they want to reach out. So I wouldn't hesitate to reach out to your donors or your board members, your top prospects. How's it going? Just really not asking for money. We're just checking in, right? I think they'll appreciate it. But also keep in mind when you're reaching out, you want to keep in mind where they live, what are their demographics, are they senior citizens, are they tech savvy, how do they like to be contacted, and assume that they might know someone who is ill or at risk. So tailor your messages, be cautious, don't be insensitive, but check in, for your volunteers who continue to help and support you, again, thank them, check in with them, your key people who you always go to for help with events or with fundraising, phone-a-thon. They could easily just sort of forget about you. So just reach out to them, make sure they're doing okay. Same with your staff. I'm sure you're doing that already. But this is a great time to just sort of communicate that you care about people. And that will pay you back in the end. When the time comes for you to ask for that money later, which you're going to have to do, it's going to pay you back. Number 4, I think we're on. So a lot of you are probably already doing this, but really focus on building your digital community. Whatever your mission, part of what you do is creating a supportive community, right? We all try to do that. So keep doing that. And then keep looking at all the digital channels that you can really build out right now. Because the news is changing every single day, right? It's like you can't keep up with it, your head's spinning. So something you put in the mail, probably not going to be relevant 2 weeks from now, right? So I think unless it's, really well worded so that it doesn't, but we don't know. So right now, I would say use your e-newsletter, blog, any other social media, anything you can use to sort of stay up to date and current and get messages out there fast. People are really hungry for content right now, and they're really hungry to hear from people they care about. And hopefully you're one of those people. Also, I think people would rather hear from you a bit more frequently now with a current update. So I wouldn't be afraid of reaching out maybe a little more than you might have in the past. But I would keep it brief, keep it useful, give them a piece of information they can use or that they need. And really be authentic and again, showing that love and care. And while you're at it, I really work on making your email subject headers really authentic and have them stand out. So do not, whatever you do, label every email or post COVID or coronavirus, or because guess what? People are getting a ton of messages labeled coronavirus or COVID or pandemic. So really try to come up with some email headers that are going to get you to break through that, that are authentic and caring and a voice that they want to hear from. Also, just don't name something April newsletter, because that sounds like you're being kind of ignorant, because you're not again taking into account how everyone's feeling right now. So try to find that middle ground. Any questions so far? Anybody?
I want to mention one thing. You mentioned the grandparents. I was just talking to a school last week that they're turning their grandparents' day into exactly what you were saying. They're tailoring it to more of a concerned moment, and reaching out to them in, they mentioned they were having like Zoom meetings with grandparents, like group get-togethers, but it's more like reaching out and getting to making sure that everybody's all right. And I agree that will
Right.
pay off huge in the end.
Right. Right. And we're lucky we already have these communities and we have the digital capabilities in a lot of ways. So I think just repurposing them during this time to sort of just make sure you keep connecting with people. But most of my clients have not stopped fundraising. It took them a few weeks to sort of wrap their head around, working at home and now what, but most of them are moving forward, not necessarily in the same way they were before planning to move forward. But I think if you get the right messages and the right tone, I think it is actually a really good time to keep moving forward with your fundraising. People are trapped in their homes. They're feeling overwhelmed, they're feeling helpless. So one of the things you can do is offer them an opportunity to do something good. So, giving back somewhere is going to make them feel better than just sitting there and not doing anything. Now, maybe they can't, volunteer at a hospital, or they can't make masks, or they can't do anything to solve the crisis with the virus. Maybe they can donate money, but they can also give to something that's important to them, which is your institution or whatever your project you are trying to raise money for, that will also make them feel sort of empowered and make them feel good. If you have a project or a fund that is virus related, great, even more so. It maybe you have something that could support medical research, or maybe you need scholarships for nursing students, or maybe you need funds to buy a 3D printer that could be used to do something. Think about ways that something you can do could further our education around this issue, or our future public health. Look for ways that your school can sort of tie into those things. If you can't, that's fine. But just know that giving money to places that people care about makes them feel good. And in this time, I think that's important. So the other thing you can do is you can give assurance to people that some things aren't changing. Some things are forging ahead as usual. That just people are craving that like normalcy, right? So let people know you're there for them and you're not going away. Let them know that your mission at your school or your college has not changed and will never change, right? Your institution has been around for a long time and it's going to be there. This is a great time to encourage monthly giving. Steady donor support is what has kept you going so far. So you can make that case that, that's the thing that has kept us going in the past and will keep us going in the future. So I think there's definitely a case to be made for that. Many of my clients are going ahead with trying to do the annual monthly giving. And I think I think you can focus on that, especially if it's going to operating budget. The other thing you can give people is hope, which is another thing I think everyone's looking for. People need to be reminded that things will get better, and that if we make the sacrifices now, that the future will be brighter. It may take us a while, we will get there, but make the case that together, working together, that we will prevail and be stronger in the future. And you can use those messages in your fundraising as well. And lastly, just thank people. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And if if you feel like you're not comfortable going out with an appeal letter, go out with a thank you letter. I think this would be an amazing time to just say, hey, you know what? In this crisis, we've decided, you know, we're going to talk to the people we care about the most. This is a time for us to sort of, you know, dig deep and recognize what's important to us. And we're just sending out a message thanking you, thanking you for your support, thanking you for being there. And I think, again, these are the messages that will pay you back in the future. Let them know that you're there in your thoughts, and thank you for being part of our community. So I was looking at some examples that schools are doing. Some of them that I thought were kind of good ideas. And one small college near us, they sent out an email about some of the new instituted, more flexible options they're giving to students and families. And so some of the colleges are giving refunds for some room and board expenses that families are paying when their students aren't actually there. But they've given families the option to donate those refunds back to the school. And I thought that was a nice message. They said, we know that every family situation is unique and we are here to support you. One of the advantages of a small and personal environment like ours is that we can work with you on an individual basis. Again, they're like showing their marketing points there, but they're also trying to be useful and flexible and showing that they care. And if you can afford to give back the refund, we're going to give you that option. So it's not really an appeal, but it's sort of a way of letting people do something to help you. And it's money they've already spent. So if they can afford to do it, great. There's another school that previously had planned a day of giving. And instead of that, they are targeting an initiative focused on areas of the college most impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic and its fallout. So they're really focusing on areas that really were most hurt by this crisis, and then making their day of giving about that. Another school is, it's recommending that people give to a fund. It says, with the academic year disrupted and many students facing financial hardships, alums and friends are asking how they can help. Consider our Bridge Fund. This is a fund they already have, but they're just pointing donors to it. This fund addresses short-term challenges with financial support, which gives college flexibility as to where funds are needed most, right? So this is a fund that can just help students. It can help families. It can help students who might need help with a plane ticket home, with being able to, maybe a family member has lost their job and they don't have the money to come back next semester. So this is a fund that sort of, in a time of emergency, is something that they've had set up in the past. But I think this is a great time for them to sort of point that out. They have it and it can solve some problems. I have another. This is a small nonprofit theater company. And they're basically saying, we need you now more than ever, because basically they're closed down and they can't make any income at all. But they're pointing to the fact that there's the new stimulus bill includes changes to charitable giving that could allow for greater benefits from the donation you make today. So apparently the federal relief bill grants taxpayers an above-the-line deduction for up to $300 in charitable donations starting in 2020. I have to look into the specifics of this, but this could be a good angle to use if you have a nonprofit, and point out the fact that those laws might have changed and that you could get more of a deduction if you give now to certain organizations. And I thought that would be an interesting thing to look into. And Jim, do you have any examples that you've seen out there?
The one that you mentioned about the boarding school, I saw that as far as boarding, if you want to give back or take that money and give to a specific fund. I've seen that.
Yeah. I know the YMCA that we belong to, a lot of people have put their memberships on hold, and so they're not paying their membership fee, but they have given us the option, in this time of crisis, do you want to just keep paying? That would be really helpful to us. And so they've given people that option also.
Also, the name of, instead of the Day of Giving, I've heard a lot of schools calling it the Day of Caring.
Mm-hmm.
It's a popular word that's being sent out around there.
Yep.
And I would, if you're in a community, like there's some areas of the country, like Fairchester private schools, it's Fairfield County and Westchester. I'm not sure if they're doing this, but there are areas of the country where there's clusters of private schools that kind of work together or get together.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's a bad thing to piggyback off and say, should we name something so all the school community knows that we're all working together on this Day of Caring? So you could kind of all group together and say, on this specific day, these schools, we are working together on a Day of Caring. But I agree with you on this, that it either has to go to an operational expense or it goes to that bridge fund where it is there to support families that need it the most.
Also, I think it's an important time to point out that, at your institution, your faculty and staff are, they're working from home, they're working really hard, and some of them may also have financial issues with their spouses or their kids or their families, and they also need to keep working, and you're doing your best to keep everybody employed and keep them, so you're part of the solution. You're keeping people employed, and that's very important, but you can't do that without your fundraising, right? And you can't keep educating the students, which you're working really hard to do, without that fundraising. You're trying to move forward in this time. So we just got a question from someone who works at a Catholic school and sent out a early March Libunt mailing with a Lent message and did get back donations. And the community that the school is in is a heavy manufacturing area. And so many of the families and businesses are struggling there. So this person wonders if anyone is sending out targeted letters. And I don't know what this person means by targeted, but maybe by targeting people who are struggling or families that are struggling, or pointing out that people in your community are struggling. But I think it is a good time to raise money for scholarships and for student support, for family support, because some people may not be able to pay their tuition next year. And that's going to be crucial, right? Any other questions? I don't see any other ones there.
While I just want to also point out that Tracey and our office had an opportunity, and still do, work with a school down in Houston, Texas, during their first capital campaign, I think it was. It was a pretty aggressive campaign, and they made it, but it came out probably 2 weeks prior to the flood that happened back in 2018, was it, Tracey, or 17? Time goes by. But the decision was so on the fence that how could we possibly have this, $15 million campaign at a time where the entire city was flooded? And they decided to move forward, and they and it was almost like a moment where, you would think nobody was going to give, but they saw that as an opportunity to be like, listen, we want to give somewhere, but you know, they're giving us this opportunity to give to a community that we're already a part of. And they knew that it was, did they make it? I don't know if they carved out a little bit to help the families that were also
Yeah,
experiencing.
I think they did. I think
So,
they made part of it to help families, which
yeah,
was,
so it actually was you know, a great idea. So it was extremely successful.
someone wrote in that they are segmenting solicitations, not sending to groups where they know parts of the country where they know people might be struggling. So yeah, that might be interesting to take a look at your lists and make sure maybe you're not targeting people in New York City, or maybe you're not targeting people in New Rochelle, or I don't know. I mean, maybe areas that are really struggling. And someone else said they're targeting letters to those who have disposable income or donated in the past who are not impacted by COVID right now in regards to their business or job. If you're able to target and segment that well, then yeah, I guess go for it. Again, I think it's really difficult to sort of know exactly what everyone's going through. You know, they might not be in an area of the country with a lot of deaths or virus right now, but they might have someone in their family who died in another state, you know, so you don't know. So just be careful. This person says they have several alumni in the New York City area. We are not soliciting New York City. So there's someone else's approach. And then another person says we're using a software program called Salsa so we can see giving history and have a strong alumni base. So great. So this person's able to target really well. So yeah, I think targeting is a great idea. Again, you want to be as sensitive as possible to what people are going through. And I think, again, that's going to pay you back in the future to show that you really authentically care about people. And, you know, the more you can tie your messages to hope and thanks and caring, but also that, you know, you're there, you're moving forward, your mission is important, you're not sort of, you know, throwing up your hands and giving up. You need to move forward in times like this too. And also just look for those stories where you can tie your school or your college or your institution to something going on with the virus in some way that you're helping or involved. You know, try to find those little pieces of inspiration that can, you know, make people feel like they want to give money to you in order to help.
And there are schools that we've been working with, two in particular, that we were working on their magazines, and they did a pivotal turn because either this magazine issue is focused on, or has been historically focused on, graduation, you know, athletics, and both of these two magazines that I know of are coming out shortly, and they're focusing everything on what they've been doing in their school community on helping out, and one of them is in New Jersey. So they did a very their whole magazine is about what their community has been doing. So,
Yeah, and don't forget, I think you know, we said that people really are also looking for good news in all of this. So I think one of the things you could do is sort of, after you acknowledge that it's a difficult time and we're here for you and we care about you and we thank you, here's some good news that we can share with. Here are some successes or some, you know, achievements our school has made because of donors, or here's some amazing things some of our alumni are doing, or, you know, just give a chance to give people some good news. Again, as long as it's couched in those messages around the crisis and understanding what's going on. Those can inspire people to keep giving also. You know, that you are doing good things. You're still functioning, you know. So I think that good news approach. Have any of you seen the some good news show with John Krasinski? He's done a podcast, or not a podcast. It's like a video. It's hilarious, but it's basically John Krasinski from The Office, the actor, and he's married to Emily Blunt. He's doing this sort of weekly some good news. It's like a fake newscast from his house, but he only shows good news, and it's just so uplifting, and it's such a great. It's really caught on. So I encourage you to take a look at that. So.
And I would throw that, I would second that as far as good news. I just got off the phone or a focus group with a school today. They may be on, I'm not sure. But they're calling their e-learning digital, their mascot is the dragons. So they're calling it Digital Dragons. And I'm sure gonna promote that. And I think it would probably be a supplement as far as for admissions about how well they're doing with this digital learning. So I think I will encourage them to kind of play off the Digital Dragons and kind of play that up a little bit, just to let people know, especially new families that are going to be looking at your school, to say, what were you doing during this time? I think it's going to be pretty important.
And again, in all these stories, you just need to keep tying it back to the fact that, all of this is supported by donors, supported by you, our giving community. So all that good news is made possible by them. So just keep reminding them. Someone else has been holding weekly social media contests. And they were surprised to see how many businesses have stepped up to donate prizes, which sounds awesome. With so many restaurants closed, they did a contest to give some free takeout as a prize, which I'm sure restaurants are eager to get, give people some food so they can get them back in. It's been fun, and students and families are supporting our local community. In return, we hope they will remember us when we have our business appeal in the fall. So yes, again, thanking your business donors, giving them some love, finding ways to help them so that they can come back and help you. I think totally great idea. My daughter's public high school, the teachers have decided to have a talent contest over Instagram. It's been hilarious because they're not that talented. It's been very funny. And the kids are voting on over Instagram about who's going to win, and they're giving them points. And they've got some local businesses who have donated some prizes, and it's just a way of keeping your community connected, which is really important in this time. Giving a little levity, and then also like getting the businesses involved. So yeah, anything that can sort of bring people together, remind them that they're part of your community, so when the time comes for you to ask for their help, they'll be there. And I'm sure a lot of you are already doing many of these things, and you probably have a lot more ideas. And we'll get through this. Totally will. It's just going to take a while. But then I think you're gonna see a big payback with all the work you're putting in right now, and as hard as it is. So I think it'll come back to you.
Anybody else have fun suggestions? Because those are great, actually. And I'll tell you, I'll say one thing. I was on one, I don't want to take it away from fundraising, but I think this is a perfect example. I was on a meeting last Friday where there was a school that the big topic was graduation, and somebody as a joke was like kind of apologetic about having their graduation at a drive-in cinema because they had access to it, and they were very kind of apologetic at it, and within like 10 seconds we all were like, that is the greatest idea that anybody could ever have. So any idea is, in my opinion, a great idea, and there's nothing wrong. So if anybody has ideas, to share. That so far, these are great.
Our spring fundraiser, I'm Denise from Glen Elk Country School. I'm Director of Development there. Our spring fundraiser, we sort of shifted a few years ago to a virtual online auction. So this year we are in really good shape because we're really tweaking it to, hey, it's the only party in town and that type of thing. So we're able to, so these online auction platforms are really good. Bidding for Good is what I use, FrontStream, and it's super intuitive. It's super easy to use, and we've gotten away from even offering, so many trips and things like that. We're giving them student experiences, like, well, parents get parking spaces, obviously. Front row graduation, that's Tracey. We were thinking about letting two families win the front seat tickets and have the headmaster in a mask and give 2 students their diploma, but we're really not going to do that. That would be crass. But we're like a lot of really fun little things, and we've pivoted from experiences this year to experiences next year. But I think that, I'm hoping that we're going to be able to we're giving this a lot more spin than we normally do because of this whole thing. So the Bidding for Good platforms, the Frontline or the FrontStream platforms for online fundraising are really nice.
Thanks for that. Those are great ideas. Yeah, it's great.
And you don't have to spend all the money for renting space and food and all that. So
it's right. And now that we've moved it to, the first grade teacher takes, 3 first grade students to lunch at the pond, so it really doesn't cost us anything. We have and now we're moving to some more virtual things, like having one of our piano teachers give an hour-long lesson virtually, to the students. But things that the kids can experience, just some of the paintball with the middle school faculty. There's just a lot of things. Head of school for the day, head of the upper school for the day. So there's things that don't cost us anything. We don't rent a space, and the parking spaces themselves, they always go for $1,000. So I mean, it's an easy way to raise funds, and I think this year, if we tweak it properly, we'll raise a fair amount using this was very helpful, using some of these strategies that we just discussed.
Great, thank you so much.
Okay.
Any other
Zoom? This is my first Zoom meeting. We've been using Teams. I don't know. I'm trying to figure out how to change the background. Everybody's talking about how you can change the background.
Yeah, I haven't figured that out yet myself. I feel like I'm more popular socially over Zoom than I am in real life. I have all of these cocktail hours set up.
I know, it's funny, isn't it?
It's quite interesting.
That's what somebody said when somebody posted on social media. I don't know what to do first after quarantine, Weight Watchers or Alcoholics Anonymous?
Right. This is true.
Kind of like, but
yes.
Denise, I have a question regarding your online auction.
Yes.
We were having the traditional in-person auction, which was supposed to be March 21st, which had to be canceled or postponed. So we're going to shift as many items as we can to an online auction format.
Okay.
My question is, how long do you run the auction? How long is it open?
Well, so we've tweaked it several times, and what we find is it's really fun to open it. Like we have a video guy send out a push page. We run it Friday through a Tuesday, so people can sort of fool around with it during the weekend because it's kind of a fun software to use. But then we send out a push page Friday afternoon at 3:00 when typically people are in carpool line, and all their phones blow up. But then we send out messages throughout, and then Monday we send out another message. People that are registered can see the winning bids, and then we close it really sharp. We make a big fuss about closing it at 10:00 on Tuesday night, and we give people countdowns and things of that nature. And that Tuesday night is when things get really exciting. But we try to give them 4 or 5 nights just to look at things and review them and work up some competition, but not enough time to scheme and keep the bids down.
Okay, that makes sense. I mean, because we were toying with the idea of doing the virtual auction. One of our concerns is just like what Tracey was saying about don't ask for money now. I mean, there's such a level of uncertainty. We have families who are, concerned about paying their tuition, making house payments, that type of thing, that we weren't sure whether we should roll with the auction or not.
Well, we're really trying to be nimble with our message. It's not the same message. Really, what we wanted to raise the money for was for our performing arts program and some new instruments. We still may do that, and then to have the day of caring be for the operational expenses. But we're really trying to be billing it more as, hey, don't worry, you're gonna have some fun this spring. It's not gonna be all doom and gloom. We're doing this auction, and just sort of. We have some fun items in it, and we're trying to keep a sense of humor about it to keep people entertained a little bit.
Yeah, Denise is exactly right. I think you should definitely move ahead with your fundraising efforts. Again, it's all about the messaging and being sensitive about who you're sending it to. So yes, are you sick and tired of being quarantined and have nothing to do and you're feeling sad? Well, we're still having a party. But you also have to be cognizant and aware, like, yes, we know, this is hard and people are struggling and we're caring and you might have a sick family member, but if you're able to come, we would love to have you. You're
Right.
part of our community. We care about you. By the way, if you feel like doing something really good and helpful, you can donate,
We're doing a crowdfunding. Yeah, we're having a little crowdfunding piece.
So again, it's all about how you talk about it, how you message it. You have to just make sure you're getting those messages right. And I think, you might find you even raise more money during this crisis. I don't know.
That'll be really interesting. I'm curious about that. But I think that the nice thing about these online virtual auctions also is that they're anonymous. People can't really tell how much the other person is spending. They have sort of code names, not code names. I'm showing my email names or whatever,
right.
Usernames
Yeah,
that they make up. So so you can't really see. And honestly, if you go to a live auction, sometimes it's not unusual to get just 50 people bidding, on the whole silent auction table. So, and that's what we usually average with a student population of, over 700, so 350 families, usually at 300 to 250 do not bid anything. So people can feel good about that too.
And the platform is called Bidding for Good.
Yeah, well, it's Bidding for Good, and that was just taken over by FrontStream, but I still use the Bidding for Good. But I find it extremely easy, and I know there's other ones out there, but I'm just, again, not a rocket scientist, when it comes to these new platforms. So
I'm wondering, has anyone sent out any mailing appeals or social media appeals, email appeals? What are you seeing? What kind of responses are you seeing from people? Are they down? Are they up? Are they about the same? Anybody have?
We have not sent out any appeals. We've sent
any
a lot of social media posts, on what our students are doing. We're trying to be really, really student-centered before we start a hardcore fundraising message, which will start April 22nd. But we're really being super student and super faculty oriented. That's just.
Anyone else?
I hope today helped or was helpful.
It was great.
Any other questions? Somebody said we're trying to build and maintain community and then solicit.
That's kind of where we are too. We're going to hit the hardcore solicitations in May. Right now, it's just all about the love and how are you feeling. And we're trying to call, the giving officers are trying to call, 5 to 10 people a day just to check in with them. Or people. But I love that idea. We're going to do a push page to grandparents because tomorrow is our grandparents' day and we're going to get something out to them. We miss you. We'll see you next year. Here's some.
Hope you're well. Yeah.
That was a great takeaway.
Well, you guys know where to find me. If you have any questions, I'm happy to help. And hang in there. I know you're doing great work. It's important. Keep doing it.
Yeah, thank you, everybody.
Kids rely on you.
And any
And
questions?
I'm glad I'm not a teacher because this homeschooling thing is hard.
I am too. I
And
am
anybody
too.
have
Oof.
questions on-
I think Peapod. I'm sorry.
Oops.
Hello.
Yep.
I think Peapod's working with our administrative team today to do a.
Yeah, in fact, I have to hop off and get back on with you guys.
Well, make sure you tell Greg that I was here.
I will. And you guys do a beautiful campus. God,
Pardon?
you have a beautiful campus. Beautiful
It
school.
is. The campus is unusual, and that's, we were trying to do some reform, but I think that's our selling point. Our campus. I worked at Severn School for about 15 years, and we had someone come in and rebrand us, and they used the river. The river was the big thing for the school because we're located on a river. I think the country is the theme. If I don't get to pipe up, that's your takeaway from me. Thank you so much.
Thank you
Yeah,
again.
thanks everybody for coming.
Okay.
And
It's nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. Bye.
thank you. Thank you, Tracy.
Oh,
Thank you, Tracy.
leave meeting.
Bye.